I don't see how the Republic can survive the current state of politics. I've long talked about some kind of cold civil war or the escalation into some kind of kinetic civil war, and I feel like we are watching the Republic be ripped to shreds. Perhaps it's my youthful naivete. Perhaps there are many people who are older than me who have seen things that are worse than this. But right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is testifying in a trial to determine whether or not she should be disqualified from government. What did she do? Called for protests, supported protests, challenged the establishment. But she's being accused of insurrection. And the trial so far is laughable. They played a clip of her saying, we should go to D.C. and flood the buildings and protest peacefully, blah, blah, blah. I hope it doesn't come to violence, something to that effect. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene says, what year is that from? And the man questioning, the lawyer questioning says, I don't know. And she goes, 2019, I believe, when we came and protested peacefully. It's fascinating that we have seen the left storm buildings, bang on doors and block doors, take over the city in mass protest, but not a single insurrection trial have we had for these people. Currently, the January 6th committee is seeking to upend the political rivals of the establishment uniparty, principally the Democrats, but many Republicans as well. And the goal is, in my opinion, after this trial run, to see if they can disqualify Donald Trump on the same grounds. They're going to keep slinging mud until something sticks. This country cannot survive this level of political civil war. We are no longer at the point where we are simply arguing about whether or not one party would be better than the other. We have devolved beyond even the failures of the two-party system. And now, instead of having elections, it's simply, I'm going to make things up that I can justify as to why you should be disqualified from government. They tried it with Madison Cawthorn and failed. Now they're trying it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. It seems to only get worse. The Democrats know they're going to be crushed in November. It's possible things change, and that doesn't happen, but I think all signs point to a Republican sweeping victory. Now, that's no guarantee that anything's going to change. And I don't think the establishment uniparty cares too much about what comes in November because Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham are uniparty shills. They're not going to do anything. They're going to say, slow down there, Democrats, and then do nothing. But if more people like Marjorie Taylor Greene get elected, the system will be upset. Marjorie Taylor Greene came on my show, Timcast IRL, on more than one occasion, and she was absolutely lovely. You may disagree with her opinions. I don't think I agree with her on everything. I think we disagreed on certain points. I think I challenged her on some things. But there's one thing I really like. When she said she went into Congress and forced these people to do their jobs. Because right now, they don't even vote on these bills. They show up, there's like 10 people, and some random guy bangs a gavel, and then everyone's like, whatever. It's as if Congress isn't even functioning. It's one big theater performance. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is making people actually go and vote. Now, they can't have that and they have to remove her. But they're not going to defeat her in an election because her county loves her, her district. So what do? Disqualification through lawfare. This is dangerous territory, my friends. Of course, political tribalism has reached such a level of absurdity. There's no point in even arguing with these people on the left anymore because they'll just make things up. I don't know where that leaves us other than they are no longer trying to even pretend to be a democracy. They say, we're a democracy, we're a democracy. Okay, we're a constitutional republic with democratic elections. But they say, our democracy is in danger. Yes, when you use the law to strike down at the core of our institutions, when you infiltrate and destroy in an attempt to rebuild into your likeness. Say what you want about whoever you want. I don't care. Talk about political opinions. I don't care. If it's come to the point where, let's say you're a Democrat right now and you think Marjorie Taylor Greene should be disqualified, sure. Do you think Republicans are just going to be like, we really like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but you're right, Democrats. You didn't win an election. You just disqualified her. You think they'll accept that? The only outcome to an escalation of politics to this degree is going to be violence and chaos. And that's why we need civility and peace. We need them to say, you have to live with the likes of political opponents you don't like. But here we go, baby. Let's read the news. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member to help support our work. If you believe in the mission of building culture, reporting the news, and you'd like to help us bring on more reporters, which we're looking at 2 more people who are going to be bringing on, then please become a member at timcast.com to support us. You will also get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, not so family-friendly, uncensored, about half an hour long, Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. We need your support to continue. We greatly appreciate those who can. Let's read the first story from the Wall Street Journal. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene to testify in lawsuit seeking to bar her from re-election. They say the freshman congresswoman from Georgia has denied the accusation that she engaged in insurrection, saying that political opponents are seeking to kick her off the May 24 primary ballot for participating in the ordinary process of objecting to the Electoral College results on January 6. Let's pause. They've already done it to Robby Starbuck in Nashville. In Tennessee, the Republicans are claiming that somebody who's been a Republican his whole life is not a Republican, so they can remove him from the primary. And they did. The system is corrupt. The Republican Party is corrupt. And when people step up and say, I'll play by your rules, I'll play your game, they get the boot. Because the system is corrupt. Mrs. Greene's testimony before an administrative law judge at the Office of State Administrative Hearings is part of a lawsuit filed by a group of voters with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Mrs. Greene sued to stop the voters' complaint from proceeding. A federal judge earlier this week said that the legal challenge could go forward, clearing the way for the Friday hearing. The voters in their lawsuit say that Ms. Greene has a well-documented history of advocating violence and that her rhetoric and actions before and after January 6th, assault on the Capitol, trigger application of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. A provision of the amendment says that members of Congress who have sworn to support the Constitution can't serve as representative or senators if they shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion. This is why they've been lying the whole time. It's why the media has been screaming insurrection this whole time. Specifically because Democratic strategists wanted to stab through the heart our institutions, because they know they can't win, because they know Donald Trump will get reelected, and the only thing they can do is burn it all to the ground. Calling for protest is not insurrection. Engaging in violent acts directly and burning things down and smashing things, you could argue, is. And as for those who were seeking to upend the Electoral College process, these were violent rioters, but the issue is the FBI said there was no plan. Now, we may see that change because there have been charges of seditious conspiracy. Perhaps some of these people may have insurrected against the government. There's still a serious challenge as to the legal qualifications for insurrection, and at the very least, Marjorie Taylor Greene was not involved in that. By all means, the people who were violent should go to prison. And the bumbling MAGA meemaws who milled about confused and were let into the building, it's an entirely different story. Those people I don't see you being able to convict of a crime. Those who engaged in violence or willfully and trespass and broke barriers, that I get. Mrs. Greene's lawyer, James Bott Jr., said the congresswoman would appear at Friday's hearing. Well, here we are. Newsweek with the live blog, Marjorie Taylor Greene testimony. Greene says she called for peaceful protest. You know why I don't buy the Marjorie Taylor Greene violent insurrection stuff? Because violence doesn't work. Violence is what they want because they can weaponize it. They needed Marjorie Taylor Greene to call for violence, but she's consistently called for peaceful protest. I will tell you this right now, and I'll say it a million times. Violence doesn't work in today's day and age. What it does is it allows the government to justify more extreme actions and surveillance, and it turns the public against you. We have seen it over and over again, especially with Black Lives Matter. Their support plummeted because of the violence. But it's amazing how popular Black Lives Matter had become until they rioted for George Floyd. And then their popularity dropped lower at the end of the year than it was the beginning of the year. And now it's been consistently low. They could have just remained peaceful. And when you're peaceful, you say, please help us. They're attacking us. We don't want violence. And regular people are going to say, I agree. Instead, they got violent. People died. And now people are upset about it. Newsweek reports Greene says prosecutor has as many conspiracy theories as QAnon. So there's many, many updates here. There's a lunch break. Greene says she did not plan to attend January 6th. I never mean anything for violence, Greene says. They keep trying to pull up these things. Let's see if she can. Greene says she called for a peaceful protest on January 6th, had no knowledge of planned violence. So one of the more interesting moments in this was when, I mentioned this earlier, they played a video clip of her saying, go to DC, protest, flood the Capitol, go in those buildings. And I'm hearing that, I'm going like, whoa, did she really tell people to enter the Capitol? CNN article? And then she says to the guy, I suppose this would be, I don't know, it's an administrative hearing, so I guess the lawyer arguing against her. What year was that? And he says, I don't know. And she goes, 2019, I believe? Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene is correct. These buildings are public, and typically you can just go inside them. It doesn't mean to go in them when there's official proceedings going on and you're not allowed in, but typically you can. And back then they did, and it was fine. Occupy Wall Street's done it. I remember during Occupy Wall Street, we all went to I can't remember, the Hart Building or one of these Senate buildings. I think both. You just walk in. They're public, and people are like, you can just come into these buildings, right? And I was like, really? And you can walk right into the office of members of Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene had a successful peaceful protest. Well, now the name of the game is to lie, cheat, and steal, to manipulate, and I love it. Here we go. Vice says, Marjorie Taylor Greene to January 6th. I don't know her. I don't remember Greene testified repeatedly in response to questions about the Capitol riot. All right, let's play a game for all of you to understand what they're trying to do right now. And they do this all the time. My friends, 6 months ago, you tweeted something about insurrection. Can you tell me what you said? No, of course not. You, sir, you tweeted, you said we should all go out into the streets and demand justice and fair representation. Now, did you say that? Are you kidding? I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning. All right. That's a joke, it's a trope. I actually can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning. But the point is, how are we supposed to remember every single thing we say at all times, all the time? Look, we are not savants with what is it called? There are these people who have this thing, perfect recall, where they can remember like anything at any point. So they ask her like, did you say this, that, or otherwise? And Marjorie's like, maybe. I mean, it sounds like something I'd say, but I don't know. And then they're like, we want a yes or no answer. That's the most amazing thing. They were like, they read a quote, did you say that? And she's like, I was talking about Nancy, no speeches, yes, no, or I don't know. And then she was like, what? How am I supposed to answer this? You take a quote out of context, and then before I get a chance to explain anything, you're like, no, you could only say yes or no. I'll tell you this. I don't know. That's the best thing you can say. And some of these things are really funny because they're like, did you believe that this, that, or otherwise should happen? It's just like, no. Like, you're not putting opinions in my mouth. I'm not letting you walk me in through any of this weird context. I hate watching trials when they do this. Because it's like, if you ask me anything about sentiment, I'm going to say no. And then if you ask me something specific, Tim, do you enjoy eating Giordano's deep dish pizza? No, I don't. You don't? No, I don't. But you recently purchased some and cooked some. Yeah, because everybody else really likes it. It's good pizza, but I feel really guilty because it's kind of bad for you. So I don't really enjoy it. You see, you can say it any way you want. If you know how to engage in arguments and answers, you could ask me, do you like eating pizza? And the answer is no. We have two wills within us. This is a conversation we had with Michael Knowles and Jeremy Boring of the Daily Wire. One that says, oh, that pizza is really delicious. And you would absolutely enjoy to take that bite of pepperoni pizza. Oh, man, stuffed crust. But do you enjoy it? Well, my other will says, dude, eating all of that starch, sugar, sauce, you're going to regret it. I really don't enjoy it. Man, that first bite is great, but then afterwards, you really regret it, don't you? I've been doing really, really well with the low carb stuff, so I would not enjoy it. My point is, when it comes to these questions, you can basically say anything. If it's about your feelings or opinions. Do you think that Joe Biden is a traitor? No. But didn't you say that what he did was treason? Yes. Doesn't that mean you think he's a traitor? No. It means I think what he did was treason. That's it. I don't know how you would then take that and apply it to him being a traitor, what the legal qualifications of that would be. You can really just say anything. The question needs to be around issues of fact, and the fact is there's nothing. They have nothing. They're desperately trying to get rid of Marjorie Taylor Greene because they can't win. There's a lot to criticize Marjorie Taylor Greene for, but the reality is there's a lot to criticize everyone for. They just won't win. Right now, the generic ballot, the polling for Congress has Republicans at 45 to Democrats 42.7 because, and it flipped right around here. Look at this. Back in November. So around the end of November, it flipped in favor of Republicans because of people like me and probably people like you. Check this out. A red wave may be coming to Maine. Really? That's kind of amazing. So this is just from Bangor Daily News from the other day. A red wave. All right. The Hill reports, do Democrats really understand why that red wave is coming? I don't think they know or care because their only option politically is to disqualify people. Here we go from the Intelligencer. Nevada Democrats could lose it all in 2022. Here we go. And here's the end game. The end game is here from Newsweek. Donald Trump 2024 run threatened if Marjorie Taylor Greene axed from ballot. Yo, if Marjorie Taylor Greene is removed from the ballot, this country is going to erupt. It is going to be insane. I mean, no Republican is going to take anything seriously at this point. They're going to call it a kangaroo Congress. Newsweek reports. Ron Fine, a lawyer seeking to disqualify Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene from running for re-election, blah, 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 argued Thursday that if his effort is successful, it would set a precedent for former President Donald Trump if he decides to launch another campaign. His comments came just a day before Greene appeared before a state administrative law judge on Friday for a hearing in that proceeding, which she has denounced as a scam. I genuinely believe the judge is going to be like, get out of my courtroom. There's already been so many insane objections, and the judge keeps telling this lawyer, I think it might be Ron Fine, like, what are you doing? Why are you asking this? Why are you presenting things from years ago? Do you have evidence she engaged in any action? Your Honor, it plays to the context of, shut up. Speaking on MSNBC on Thursday, Fine, the legal director of Free Speech for People, nonpartisan, nonprofit legal advocacy organization that is representing the Georgia voters in the case against Greene, said that if the judge overseeing the case fairly and impartially applies the facts in the law, then he'll agree with us that Marjorie Taylor Greene is disqualified for public office because of her aiding and facilitating the January 6th insurrection. But if he doesn't, then we are prepared to appeal and we'll take it all the way. The MSNBC host then asked Fine, and if it does end up going your way, do you think that sets a precedent for other members of Congress that you might have in your sights, who may have played similar roles, if not more egregious ones? Absolutely. If the judge agrees with us that Marjorie Taylor Greene is disqualified, then that sets a precedent not only for other members of Congress, but also if he chooses to run for office in 2024, again in 2024, Donald Trump. Trump was impeached by the U.S. House last year in connection with the Capitol riot. In a statement on Thursday about the legal challenge against Greene, Trump blasted Republican leaders in Georgia, blaming them in part for the situation. The governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, perhaps in collusion with radical left Democrats, have allowed a horrible thing to happen to a very popular Republican, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, he said. She is now going through hell in her attempt to unseat her. She just more of an election mess in Georgia. I agree with that. The Democrats can't win, so they just seek to nuke the candidates. Free Speech for People argues that Greene helped facilitate the insurrection on January 6th. Specifically, the evidence shows that she either helped to plan the attack on January 6th or alternatively helped to plan the pre-attack demonstration and or march on the Capitol with knowledge that it was substantially likely to lead to the attack and otherwise voluntarily aided the insurrection. It's just absolutely insane, to be real. The group contends she is disqualified based on the provisions of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, there's something interesting about this argument is that apparently there was some kind of amnesty act that effectively nullified this, and that's why it didn't apply to Madison Cawthorn either. After a judge ruled Monday the challenge against her could move forward, Greene said she did nothing wrong. I don't care what the lawsuit says. I did nothing wrong, and this is a scam, okay? So I'm not entertaining this. No Republican member, no one in Trump's administration or President Trump participated in any riot or had anything to do with it. We were completely shocked, she added during the interview. Newsweek has reached out to Trump and Greene's office for comment. Well, good old AOC's chiming in. AOC says January 6th riot was a trial run and claims they're going to come back if Republicans retake the House in the midterm elections. What? So what? Just the lies. I'm so exhausted. Ocasio-Cortez is saying if Republicans win the House, they'll revolt. Why? They won. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's no reason for people to storm the gates if they're handed the keys to the gates. What an absolutely insane thing to say. Well, let's get a little dark on you, I guess. We have this tweet from Jesse Kelly. He says, y'all do understand the Constitution is null and void, right? You get that? A Constitution is just a contract. Once one side has decided to break the contract, it just becomes a useless piece of paper. You're abiding by terms dismissed by the enemy. And our good friend Michael Malice then posts 3 black flags. I like the Constitution a whole lot. But Jesse Kelly makes a point. I don't know if I would agree all the way, but the issue is the Constitution is basically toilet paper at this point. What was it? Media Matters got mad at me because I said the Second Amendment protects your right to keep nuclear weapons and biological weapons. And I'm right. It's a fact. I was talking to Colonel Allen West, and I was like, felons should get their guns back. And he's like, I disagree. And I'm like, am I more gun rights than, some of these conservatives? I think so, yes. Fair point. Many said you can lose your rights through due process. That's fair. Okay. If you commit a violent crime and then we say you can't have weapons anymore, all right. But I think there needs to be a limitation. It can't just be that if you've ever committed a crime, you can never have it, because they're like people who commit tax crimes. It's like, now you can't have a gun. And I'm like, dude, it's a white collar crime. It was a felony, but come on. That should be changed. But the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Arms. Okay, let's go back in time. Was a cannon arms? Yes. If you had a merchant vessel that was armed, it had cannons. And typically people in the colonies had the same weapons that the governments had. The idea was regular people needed to be able to fend off threats, both foreign and domestic. So they needed to be armed. One of the ideas is that the U.S. wasn't this major power that it is today with massive stockpiles of weapons. And so they were like, everybody needs to have a weapon. So if the militia is required, we got a militia. But at what point did we decide to amend the Constitution to say technological advancements are not included in this? I remember this old commercial where this guy runs into an office screaming and he fires a muzzle-loaded musket. And everyone screams and runs, and then he begins pouring powder in, putting a ball in, and stuffing it. And it's like, this is what our founding fathers expected. No, the founding fathers understood the power of weapons. They knew that you could have multiple rifles. They would carry more than one with multiple shots for that reason, so they could shoot in rapid succession. And they understand people had flintlock pistols, and it's just a stupid argument. There were, what was it? Since the 1300s, there were multi-barrel, multi-armed guns. Technology advances. And the Second Amendment didn't fundamentally change until around the industrialization of warfare. Now, all of a sudden, we can't have nukes. Okay, but why? Serious question. Why not? Legitimate question. I think it's fair to point out most people would probably agree a regular person should not have a nuke, a private individual. But that requires an amendment to the Constitution. The reality is cultural enforcement is more powerful than a Constitution, and the Constitution is null and void. And I say that because free speech has already been eroded to the point where it's not in public discourse. The right to keep and bear arms has been infringed so many times that you don't have it. Let's be real. The right to keep and bear arms, sure, sometime, somewhere, but in New Jersey, you literally can't. In Maryland, you literally can't. In New York, you literally can't. They're like, but you can get a permit. The Constitution is my permit. Apparently, the right to keep and bear arms has been infringed. So what can I say of the Constitution? Only that it is only as strong as the cultural enforcement, and because of the way we've been living and the things we've chosen to do, we have lost those rights. Biden announces another $800 million in military aid to Ukraine. That's right. They're going to dump more and more money into foreign countries while the people of the United States are suffering. This is where we're at, man. We're at a whole new level of insanity. I'm going to show you this clip from Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan on why liberals supported Antifa's violent tactics. Antifa tried to literally fight MMA fighter Mark Shields. It didn't end well. I found that one to be pretty funny. Antifa roamed around the streets, smashing things and destroying things. And the country was deeply hurt by it. And for that, we are seeing a surge in pro-Republican sentiment. You know, Joe talks about it. This regular MMA guy, this regular guy's an MMA fighter, is on his show and he's talking about how he started getting into politics. He saw these Antifa guys just beating somebody up. And when he pulled them off, they yelled that he was a fascist, tried to fight him, and he, let's just say, finished that fight very quickly. And then he was like, all of a sudden, they backed off from him. He was just trying to break up a fight, and that got him into politics. It is Antifa. It is Black Lives Matter that is driving regular people into the hands of the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is as dirty as they come. Some people have chosen to run as Republicans, but you take a look at what they're doing to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I can tell you the system is broken. It is crooked. And look at what they did to Robby Starbuck. They are disqualifying populist right-wing people. It's not gonna end well for these psychopaths. Over at Civics, I love pulling up this metric, this data point that among, I believe, 18 to 34-year-olds, when asked which party supports you the most, or which party do you think actually has your best interests, the first is Democrat at like 40, and then the next is neither. The Republicans have lost youth. As you get older, Republican goes up, and Democrat goes up as well. The Republicans have lost young people. Young people want Robby Starbuck. Young people want Marjorie Taylor Greene. Young people don't want Mitch McConnell or Kevin McCarthy. But the GOP is just adamant on having those people in power. So what'll happen? You know, I genuinely believe with these polling metrics, we're going to see the rise of a third party or the dramatic change in the party. If the Republican Party will not allow a peaceful revolution within the ranks, then they will have to contend with losing forever. But maybe that's what they're happy about. The Republicans wanted, the establishment wanted Trump to lose. We got new audio where Kevin McCarthy is apparently saying he was going to tell Trump to resign. The Republicans would rather lose, have Democrats retain power, than see populists gain a foothold. So here we are. Do Democrats really understand why that red wave is coming? Does it really matter? I think the red wave will come, but we're already seeing such dirty practices that Marjorie Taylor Greene could be disqualified. Robby Starbuck has already been removed because he would have won. It's funny, Donald Trump endorsed somebody else, and everyone's like, dude, Robby's the guy. But now he's not even on the ballot, and it's totally BS reasons. They tried doing this thing where they were like, you can't run unless you've been living here for a certain amount of time. And then when Robby was like, turns out I have been, they went, oh man, then say he's not a Republican. It's just so crooked, man. If you guys live in Nashville or Tennessee or whatever, y'all need to be getting active. You need to be protesting peacefully, calling up the GOP, demanding resignations. And I will tell you this. You know what I'd do? I would boycott. In fact, this one I have to think about, but something to think about is I'm a moderate. First time I voted full ticket Republican was 2020. If they do not allow Robby Starbuck on the primary, the Republican Party can shove it. You know what that means? People are going to be like, dude, but you really want Democrats to win? You know what? Let me put it this way. If I have the choice between Democrats who are actively burning things down or Republicans who sit back and watch as they burn it down, I don't really see a difference. At least the accelerationists will be happy. I don't like those concepts. But if the Democrats win, you're going to get a whole lot of people outraged, and maybe then they will make these changes. But I don't see why I should participate and vote for anyone in the Republican Party, why a moderate should, if we can see how corrupt they are in Nashville. I suppose the Republican Party is different in all different parts of the country. But you know, in West Virginia, where I'll be voting, and where I've worked with some local groups on, I've talked to some local groups about cultural issues related to politics. I'm willing to think this one through. Comment below, because maybe it's not a good idea. But I would like to see the elected representatives in West Virginia demand that the Tennessee GOP not bar Robby Starbuck. I demand it. And maybe I'll put some money into messaging It's my free speech rights to buy billboards, and maybe I'll put up billboards just saying the Tennessee Republican Party is corrupt. Reinstate Robby Starbuck. Robby's a good dude. He's worked all over. He's a Republican. He believes in America first, populist ideas, and they're blocking him because the Republicans are corrupt. I will not put corrupt people in power. I have always said, for me, it is not about voting for the lesser of two evils. It is voting for what's right. You want to earn my vote in West Virginia? Then you better be standing up and pushing back against what they're doing to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Robby Starbuck. Otherwise, mark my words, I will put everything into messaging to make something better than the Republican Party. I've never been a fan of them in the first place. It is only since the rise of populists, fairly moderate individuals, that I've been considering voting for Republicans, that I have. But if this is the game they're going to play, I am content to sit back and say, yo, leave me out of it. And I would encourage many people to do the exact same thing. Because you know what we have to lose? If we all stand up and tell these corrupt pieces of garbage, no, you will not get our votes and you deserve to lose, maybe then they'll have no choice. Or maybe this. They won't put Robby Starbuck on the ballot. If that remains true, then I will remain hell-bent on making sure he wins as an independent. Or whatever we have to do. I do not like the Republican Party. I despise the Republican Party. But so far for now, it's better than the Democrats because many of these people are populists. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for as much as we don't agree on policy issues, to a certain degree, I love that she's actually getting in there and making people do their jobs. I want more people to do it. And so for me to come out here and say, guys, we need to vote in the primaries. And then you watch in Tennessee, they say, yeah, but we're going to disqualify your guy. Okay. So be it. I will do whatever I can through whatever legal means to make sure that if they don't allow Robby on that ballot, we see him win as an independent and we spit figuratively on the Republican Party's ethos, emblem, or idea. Good. Andrew Yang launched the Forward Party. I made a large contribution to the Forward Party. I like what Andrew Yang says. I don't trust him all that much. But I'm willing to see something alternative emerge. And right now, I am just sick of the absolute corruption. That's why I like Ron Paul. Again, I really did not agree with Ron Paul on so much. I ended up voting for Obama in 2008, as much as the left tries to claim, no, you didn't. You voted for Ron Paul. No, I didn't. I voted for Barack Obama. And I'll tell you exactly where. I'm pretty sure it was at a police precinct near 35th and Halstead, near Comiskey Field, now known as US Cellular. Actually, it was US Cellular Field, I think. Now it's like guaranteed like low rates or something. I don't know. That's where I voted. And I voted for Obama. And I'm pretty sure I didn't vote down ballot. I went in there and I was like, Obama. And I wasn't sure. I had heard so much about Ron Paul, but Ron Paul wasn't the candidate. And I was like, Obama seems different. Now I look back on it, it was a big mistake. I'm just tired of all the corruption. It is time for it to change. Robby, best of luck. Marjorie Taylor Greene, best of luck. Let us peacefully and through the democratic process take back this country for the American people. And if the GOP wants to play dirty games, then we will stand and say no. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.